There's Rob Rousseau. No one gets an intro like that, Rob. I don't know why I did that.
You got a nice voice too. It's very kind of a loungy, intro. I like that. It's good. Hang on, I'm just going to retweet your. I'm going to retweet your little your link here.
Retweet my
so tweet? Folks can watch if they want to.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you.
Yeah,
that's very thoughtful, Rob.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Thoughtful guy. Let's just go ahead and check out everything. Make sure it looks good. Here's your main scene, if you don't mind just confirming the info on there is accurate.
Yes.
Awesome.
That is me.
All right. We got the 50-50 scene here. That's fanciness. Yeah. And then we can go back here too. And we got the chat. And you don't have to pay. In fact, I sort of encourage you to not pay attention to the chat until maybe the end. And then we can pull in their questions. Otherwise, we have a nice little tight format. We stick right to it. And then we'll allow you to ask me any questions and tell you. Let us know what's grinding your gears at the end there. Otherwise, I've sent you the most recent format of everything in the questionnaire. Rob, do you have any questions before we begin?
No, I don't think so. I don't have like prepared answers for the whole. Oh. I got kind of intimidated by some of the questions.
You can pass, skip any question. There's not I'm not going to take anything personally. Okay. Nothing serious here. It's just all about getting to know you, introducing. You to my audience. And then Rob, really, the main thing is, we're planting seeds for future conversations. This is an hour. We can't fit everything in, but, we've invited you here in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. And I don't think that happens overnight. I think these links will take a little bit of while to bind. So this is us, taking those first steps here. And I really appreciate your willingness to join me today. Buddy, how are you doing? What's going on, man? Yeah,
I'm doing pretty well. It's very snowy here in Montreal right now. It snowed the last couple of days, got a couple inches. We had it was very nice a couple weekends ago. We actually, because we have a back patio thing, we brought out our patio furniture and stuff. We're getting all set up. And now there's just there's a bunch of snow. It's not good. Yeah. And I don't, nice. when I mentally move past the winter, it's very difficult for me, Dan, to have to return to this and have the cold weather and the snow. I don't like it, and I'm not happy about it. Otherwise, I'm fine now.
So go ahead and intro yourself, if you don't mind, giving us your name and your pronouns, Rob, and then we can go from there.
Rob Rousseau, he, him.
Okay. And if you don't mind doing a little profile shot and then one to the front. Just kidding. What do you do, Rob? Where else can folks find you on social media? And feel free to let us know about any projects, professional, leftist, anything going on. This is just talk about yourself. What do you do?
Well, I'm a writer. I'm a podcaster. I kind of just do that. I kind of create this kind of content that basically full time now, where I'm trying to. Most people know me from Twitter. You can find me there at Rob Rousseau. I'm also now on Twitch as well, a couple times a week, 3 days a week, twitch.tv/Rob Rousseau. I'm kind of trying to make that happen. That's been fun, getting into the whole streaming world. That's what I'm doing. So I have a couple podcasts. I have a podcast called 49th Parallel, which is mainly focused on Canadian politics. I started that in 2018, and it was a space for me to kind of talk about whatever was in the news. Whenever it was more Canada focused, I tried to lean in that direction. I kind of wanted to create a space for people that were in Canada, but who also wanted to hear about America and different international news. Around the time of the Democratic primary, I started another podcast with my friend Jordan Ewell, The Insurgents. So got a couple podcasts. I got the Twitch stream. Got a bunch. I'm on YouTube as well. I got a bunch of. I'm on all that stuff now, all over the place.
Well, I should learn from you. I need to spread it out. You know what I mean? Rob, that's how I got
really
to know.
People only pay attention to me on the one platform, so it's really maybe the joke's on me in this case, because it's difficult to build. Once you build one platform, it's not quite as easy to just make that happen elsewhere, as I'm discovering now. But I'm having fun with it, though. Having fun with it.
I don't know. From where I'm sitting, I think you're referring to your success on Twitter and having lots of eyes on you there, and just coming over to Twitch. I think what you're saying is you haven't quite enjoyed as much success. From where I'm looking, you're doing pretty well.
Oh no, it's great. It's great. Yeah. I don't want to undersell that.
For sure. But I'm not to demean the point or diminish your point there, but yeah, I can see how it's definitely hard to get. I mean, I'm trying to get my stuff on YouTube, and it feels like a crawl. So, Rob, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything else we want to mention? It seems like we've talked a little, we've already mentioned what you're up to and what you're doing. Do we want to move along to the leftward bound discussion?
Yeah, sure.
All right, Rob. So, yeah, thanks again for being with me. This is great, and I think I might have mentioned previously in a previous time that we met, maybe when we did the mutual aid event for Cole James Cash back, I believe, in October. I think I let you know back then. That's when I got to know you from Twitch. From Twitter. Probably, I don't know, dude, 8-10 years ago. I don't know. Followed you for a really long time with the old account that was banned, and I don't have another account. Otherwise, that would get banned too. Right? You're not supposed to do that. Okay, so, dude, it's really nice to be with you. Thank you again for being with me. Let's go ahead and let's move on to your discussion. Then our chat about your leftward bound journey. We'll talk about here your pathway towards leftism or left adjacentism. You don't have to define your ideology, your politics in any way. You are encouraged to do so if you feel comfortable doing so. How about we just go ahead and start there and see where it takes us?
Sure, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So talk about your pathway to leftism, or towards it,
right.
At least. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm like an old millennial, right? I'm in my mid 30s. It's probably the last year I'm going to be able to realistically say that I'm in my mid 30s, but so basically that means that.
Wait, when is that year? When I was, Rob, what year is that?
What year is what?
When does the mid 30s end? I actually don't know how we break those up. Is it like 36?
I'm saying 35 to 37 is still mid 30s. That's what I'm going with.
All right, I got a year or so too. Okay, I think we're in the same boat in that sense. Yeah.
So okay,
I can hang on to that. I like it. Thank you.
Right.
I'm feeling good about myself.
Yeah, I grew up in Canada. I grew up in this kind of a small town called Brockville, Ontario. Very kind of a conservative small town. But just the age that I am now, I mean, you can kind of see just the formative things that have happened. Like, when I was around 18, September 11th happened. And there's just been this kind of gradual process of seeing all the sort of promises of our generation just kind of continue to not pan out. So it's just been this kind of direct line, all these series of crises over and over again. Kind of September 11th, I see is kind of like the end of history era and moving into the new era, right? Which led into the Iraq War and Afghanistan and the War on Terror. And then it's just been this series of events, the financial crisis, Occupy Wall Street, and all these different things where I think, like I said, it's like the promise of all the things that we were told kind of as kids growing up was that things are going to get better. And, our parents had these great opportunities and you're going to have even more opportunities. And it's failed to materialize. Home ownership and a good job and a cheap education. Like everything's gotten more difficult and more unattainable. And so I guess it's just been a somewhat natural process of seeing these things play out over and over again, these different crises, and seeing the way time and time again that it's sort of the ruling class of the United States of Canada come together to protect themselves while kind of leaving everyone else to fend for themselves. And, it's been 20 years of this now. And I guess so I was always fairly left wing, just in terms of my natural progression of seeing these things play out. I think I became a fan of Bernie Sanders because I've been watching American politics for quite a while. I don't know if people in America, I think they kind of bristle at this sometimes. I'm like, why are these Canadians and other people so fascinated with our politics? And they get very upset at this. But, I think everyone around the world, I don't think if you're American, you don't really realize what it's like to not be American and seeing like American kind of dominate the world stage. Getting American media kind of blasted into our homes via cable news at all times. And, we're all kind of living in this geopolitical reality that America really helped create. So we're all kind of like prisoners of this. Like we basically all live in America. It's just only American citizens are able to like vote. So, I like everyone, I think, talking about radicalizing events and moves to the left. In 2008, I was very excited, just like many, many people around the world were, about Barack Obama his election and the possibilities of what that meant. But like George W. Bush was a big radicalizing figure for a lot of people in this generation, seeing kind of the evils of this kind of conservatism, of American imperialism, the tax cuts. You saw the kind of right-wing agenda. And I think it was very radicalizing for a lot of people. And then seeing Obama in 2008 seemed like a response to that. It seemed like some kind of compassion and humanity was coming back. It was very, very encouraging. And then it rapidly became very demoralizing when became clear that Obama was not really quite the like left-wing progressive figure that he had like campaigned as. Especially when it comes to foreign policy stuff. And you saw things like the drone strikes increasing and a lot of the things that I think people like Obama and other mainstream liberals had pretended to stand for in terms of like being anti-war, because the Iraq war had become so unpopular. You saw how a lot of that was kind of bullshit, as they continued a lot of the same practices, and a lot of the same people in the media that a few months or a few years ago were kind of styling themselves as being these kinds of like anti-war types. All of a sudden, when Obama was doing these things, it was okay. So this was kind of something that clicked for me, where it's like, okay, well, this is not, I don't agree with this either. I don't really agree with this direction. And you saw the kind of the limits of like liberalism, especially. And you kind of saw kind of what their values were. So I immediately gravitated to Bernie Sanders, because in like 2010, 2011, when I became disillusioned with Obama and that kind of neoliberalism, it was really refreshing to start listening to Bernie Sanders, who is like, you can tell just when he talks that he's kind of not a bullshitter, that he believes this stuff. You can tell he believes it because he's been kind of saying the same stuff for 20, 30 years when it was very unpopular, and he was saying it anyways. That's how you can kind of tell that it's not just like a ruse, or he's not just saying something to get people to win votes or to get people to pay attention to him. So that was around 2010, 2011 that I became really fascinated with Bernie. And then so it was really inspiring and amazing in 2016 when he ran for president and all of a sudden had this big national platform. And I realized that like, oh shit, there's a lot of people like me that are out there that are sort of in the same age group that are really disillusioned with the liberal establishment and the way things are going, and do want to go further, especially in the United States, and want the United States to be better and to rein in a lot of this stuff. So that was really a signal for, I think, a lot of people in this generation that like, oh shit, this is like, there is a possibility of doing something else. It's not just this like blood drinking right-wing conservatism or this kind of soulless neoliberalism, which is mostly just kind of putting a nice veneer on a lot of the same exploitation and the same terrible system. So that was really, I think that was really exciting, that 2016 campaign. And then it was also very radicalizing, Donald Trump's election and seeing like the possibilities of the future of America and what that could lead to. So really it's been a process, I think, since 2016 of taking a lot of the stuff that I already sort of believed and going even further with it and starting to read a little bit more, especially read a little bit more history, a little bit more theory, and start to say like, okay, how far can we really push this? So that brings us up to now. And obviously it's been a very disappointing and frustrating year, I think, because I spent, that entire Trump era really believing that Bernie was going to run again in 2020 and he was going to win. Like I really believed that. And I really continued believing it up until it did not happen. And that was obviously a very disappointing and frustrating experience, kind of seeing that not work out, as well as the Corbyn campaign.
You tell me he didn't win? I should take this line down. Fuck.
Well, you got to keep the dream alive.
Why didn't they tell me? No one gave me the memo? Okay.
Yeah. So that's it. And now I'm finding myself, like I think a lot of people are, trying to figure out kind of what to do next, and where, like, if you're kind of consider yourself on the left, like what are we supposed to do now? It was kind of a big moonshot, this idea of like possibly winning the presidency of the United States or possibly winning the prime ministership in the UK. And it was, I guess that's kind of disappointing thing right now is around 2017, it really felt like these were real possibilities that might happen. So this year has been really difficult, I think, seeing these things kind of not materialize to the same way. Seeing the left, such as it was, that has kind of come together over the last couple of years and was more or less united in kind of pulling in the same direction, all these disparate factions, seeing that kind of devolve back into kind of like infighting and the kind of typical bullshit that has plagued the left for literally generations and generations. And so I'm just kind of at the moment trying to figure out like, what we do next. And I'm a little bit at a loss for what that's supposed to mean, but I'm just kind of going in and trying to do the work that I do, creating engaging content for people and trying to analyze this stuff and speak to people about how I think things are going. And I don't know where we're supposed to go from here, but kind of that's where we're at right now in 2021.
Rob,
that was pretty long-winded. Sorry if
No, that's fine. I'm trying to figure out everyone's pathway left. I sort of blanked out there, and I think you said you're a Canadian and you're jealous of Americans, and that's why you're a leftist. And that's a great story.
Yeah. That's pretty much the point of that. The point of all that. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. I wish I was American. I like people to think that I'm American.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Sounds like the beginning of a villain story, Rob.
Yeah. Kinda.
No, a lot of fascinating shit in there. Very many layers to that onion, Rob.
Yes.
And you touched on a lot.
Hopefully it's not going to make you cry.
I've already cried twice today listening to Neighbor Wave, which is Mr. Rogers Lo-Fi. So I'm done. I'm cried out. I've got nothing left today. You can't. Nothing could touch me at this point. So honestly, we've planted a lot of seeds, I think, with that, and I'm hoping to plant some more seeds, like I said, and bring you back on sometime. Continue the conversation. Allow more important voices than mine, like yours, to come on and explain things to the small brains like myself. So yeah, I'm looking at literally all these notes that I took, and I'm like, okay, wow. This is a lot going on there, and I relate to a lot, and I think a lot of our viewers will as well. Let's keep digging in, Rob, if that's cool. Unless you had anything else you wanted to add in terms of no,
let's go.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to move us along. I don't want to push this along. This is going just fine and at a perfect pace, Rob. Now, what I'd love to ask, Rob, are there any other specific aspects of politics theory? I know you mentioned you started reading theory. Or history. Bit. Yeah, a little bit. Same with me, just a little bit. I don't want to be a baby leftist forever. Any other personal experiences, anything like that you could point at, if you'd like to, that helped to pull your heart or mind to the left?
I mean, yeah, that's the one. I don't want to overstate the extent that I've been kind of reading stuff. I mean, I definitely have, but I also think that can kind of create an artificial barrier for some people, where people can feel too intimidated and feel like they're not really part of this movement if they don't do all this homework, which I don't think is super helpful. There kind of has to be a balance between that. But I don't think so. I think the main thing, like I said, probably the Iraq War was the singular most radicalizing thing for me. So I think just being part of the anti-war movement and reading about anti-imperialism and trying to understand that. And the ways, especially that not only America carries out this kind of stuff, but Canada as well. I think people that live in Canada can have this very false idea of the values that Canada has because we're so close to America, and when the proximity to America and the crazy ongoing disaster and of everything that's happening in America always has given people in Canada a really distorted view of what our values are and all this stuff. And we can easily say to ourselves, oh, we didn't go into Iraq, and we don't really participate in the same kind of imperialism. But really, when you start digging into it, we really do. And so that's one thing that I've really been trying to focus on also the last couple of years is not only, thinking about America and talking about it, but also trying to make people in Canada understand that a lot of the same social problems and a lot of the same issues that we have with our ruling class and what their values are and the exploitation and the violence, we participate in all the same stuff as well. It's just sometimes the volume might be turned down ever so slightly, but that doesn't mean that Canada is this kind of your nice, friendly neighbor to the north, that kind of bullshit. That's basically a marketing campaign that a lot of people believe, even here in Canada. So that's been kind of one of my main things over the last couple of years is not only just focusing on the United States, but also trying to raise awareness of people in Canada and outside of Canada that this country is not really doesn't really meet the standard that we kind of project out to the world and a lot of people believe.
You've mentioned imperialism a couple of times. Any specific books or anything that you might be able to suggest? I know, and we could shy away from that question. I know you mentioned we don't want to imply that anyone has homework, and I love that point, Rob. Really insightful and thoughtful. Thank you for saying that.
Well, I would definitely say Black Shirts and Red is by Michael Parenti. It was a book that I would recommend every single person check out. I really like Michael Parenti.
Yeah, buddy.
I think Michael Parenti is someone who, at the height of the Cold War, was able to go out and really say shit that no one else was really was really saying, and like, you know, defending these places that which was all American media was you know, united in convincing people were these lawless, you know, evil places. And I think there's something really valuable in that, especially as we kind of careen into this new Cold War situation with China. I think reading Michael Parenti is a good way to sort of like not let yourself be pulled into that mindset, that kind of imperialist mindset, or the kind of Western chauvinism, which I see a lot actually, like on this sort of online streaming left, and I don't really like it. I'm kind of trying to push back against that. So I recommend that everyone check out Black Shirts and Reds. Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm so sorry. I pulled up that lecture and it was the color corrected version, and I just don't like that version. I want my yellow Parenti.
Yeah, you gotta have the yellow Parenti.
I feel like I'm at home now.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I mean, this is so. Just the speech is so great with this stuff when he talks about you know, literacy programs. I've been talking a lot about literacy programs lately in places like Cuba, because we saw, I don't know if you remember in the presidential primary, Bernie Sanders, the day after Bernie Sanders won Nevada in this like amazing victory, very like inspiring. It really looked like he was on the golden path to winning the nomination. Mm-hmm. And basically the media at that point went all in on trying to block this from happening. Mm-hmm. And the whole media narrative immediately after Nevada was about Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders in the 1980s praised Cuban literacy programs. Wow. Can you believe this disgusting individual? And when you see Parenti on there praising these programs and talking about how important they are, you understand why it is important that we need to do this. And a number of other ways that he in the speech that he covers all these angles in a way that I think anyone can understand. Like we talk about doing homework and stuff. It's not like Parenti is someone that it's this impossible to understand academic lingo. He sounds like a working class dude who can get across these very complex ideas in a very straightforward way, which is what I think I really appreciate about that. It's something I try to bring myself in the kind of commentary that I do.
Oh, that's great. And again, like I paint myself as someone who turned myself into a Marxist by watching videos on YouTube, and Michael Parenti being one of them. This was an important lecture to hear. Yeah, definitely got to watch it in yellow though. Yeah, absolutely.
You got to have the yellow Parenti. And that's why when you subscribe to my channel on Twitch, we have the exclusive yellow Michael Parenti emote, which is not available anywhere else on Twitch. Is the only place you can get it.
I was about to make that emote, and I'm like, nope, that's Rob's emote. I'm not biting on Rob, although I will play a train video from time to time.
Okay, well, feel free to. That's not my thing. I don't have exclusive dominion over that.
All right,
you owe me royalties though with the emote though. That's I have a copyright on that.
Okay.
My team of lawyers got on that.
So we can really work out a deal. Is that right? All right.
Possible. We'll talk about it. Yeah, we can take that off mic.
Okay. Very good.
I'm seeing some yellow Parentis in the chat as well.
I love it. So then Rob, if in the next category, which is #BeBest, I don't know, imagine a younger version of yourself or someone in chat who could perhaps benefit from your life wisdom or knowledge. You know, if you could distill it all down and give us some goods. What would you tell us today, Rob?
Well, the stuff about talking to your younger self.
Sure.
Is that what you mean? Well, okay. So I feel very fortunate that I feel like when I was growing up, I had a kind of a level of support that I think was really important to me that helped me. I feel like my younger self learned the proper lesson that I think all younger people should try and keep in mind. And this is very cliche, but this is something my mom would always tell me, which is nothing ventured, nothing gained. And presumably the principle that I've kind of tried to abide by, like throughout my whole life, you know, my adult life anyway, is just this idea that like, if you have big ideas about things you want to do, the one way that you could ensure that you never ever accomplish these things is just to not try to do it because it's too difficult. And, you know, there's many things that are like that. And it's like, wow, I would love to do X or Y. I would love, you know, and it's very easy to convince yourself just to not try because that's the way that you don't fail, right? But that's also, you know, it's the number one way, that's the easiest way to just never accomplish anything that you want to accomplish. So I've always just tried to have this mindset, and I've tried to just when I have these ideas about things that I want to do, whether it's music or whether it's, you know, being able to try to make a living talking about politics and the news and stuff, I've always just tried to be like, okay, it doesn't matter that it's difficult. It doesn't matter that like it might not work out. the important thing is that you just, you have to try to do it. It's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee that everything's going to happen the way you want to. Obviously, a lot of luck is always involved. I was also very fortunate in terms of my upbringing where I had room to kind of like try these big things, and not everyone has that ability also, which is also important for us to keep in mind. But that's, I think, the thing that I would try to impass on any kind of young person, which is just that, the number one way to ensure that you're not going to accomplish the things you want to accomplish in life is just to not do it because it's too difficult.
Excellent advice, Rob. Beautiful. I think anyone could get something out of that, I wonder, there's probably a couple things that I've prevented myself from doing. Just do it, Dan. Just do it. This is one of those shows. I'm like, just do it. And here I am doing it. And it's been 3 weeks.
Well, it's the same thing with me.
I
mean, that's, it's kind of the same thing with me. It's Twitch was very intimidating to get involved with. Especially I'm an older gentleman, as I've been talking about. So when you log onto Twitch the first time and you're like, what the hell is going on with this, with all the emotes and all the crazy stuff going on? And you're just like, I can never get involved with this. It's too ridiculous. But that was just one thing where it's just like, you have to start from somewhere. And it's like that with anything, whether it's having a Twitch channel or a podcast, or if you want to learn how to play an instrument, you want to write a book, a screenplay, a poem, anything. It's just, you have to start from nothing. You have to start with no talent and no ability, and you have to just like make it happen. And if you don't, then you won't fail. You won't fail at the thing you're trying to do, but you also won't accomplish it either. Like, that's just what I've always tried to keep in mind.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. What is it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is it? All right. I got really quickly, pause right here. Hello, Raiders. My name is Dan. I'm joined today with Rob Rousseau on my interview series, Leftist and Chill. I interview lots of people. I have literally 63 interviews booked for today. My alerts are off during this time, and sound effects, etc. None of the bells or whistles are turned down during my interviews, so that I can have a nice chat with my guest. Yeah, and that today is Rob Rousseau, who is famous for being a musician, and I think they're on Twitter too. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hey, real quick, you are a musician. Someone said they've seen you play in UK. Is that in some UK clubs? Is that right? Am I?
Yeah. Well,
what kind of music did you do?
That's what I spent most of my 20s doing, basically. From 18 to like 28, I was just singularly devoted to like playing in bands and doing that.
What do you play?
And got to be a point where I was like I play guitar. And I got to a point where I was like fairly successful doing it. I kind of got to the level right below being like actually legitimately successful. But like, I was playing in a band. We had a major label record contract. We toured the UK a bunch of times, toured Canada a bunch of times. We had songs on the radio, stuff like that. That's kind of like what I spent most of my 20s doing in terms of, and also like, working shitty side jobs and going to university and things like this. But, and I basically retired from doing music, or basically right around 2010, like right at the turn of the decade. And I kind of stopped doing that. I kind of quit cold turkey. It got to be kind of a dark time that I had to move on from. And it's just funny because that was the position that I was in like around 2010. And all I really had time to do after that was like go online and like read Twitter and look at the news and start thinking about this stuff. And that's when I became I was already kind of like politically oriented, but that's when I became really kind of obsessive with following the news cycle and starting to think about it and talk about it and follow this stuff going on. So it was interesting. It's like, it was basically, that started me on this current path that I'm on, which is just like focusing on the news and politics and talking about that and trying to take maybe some of the lessons that I learned from that my previous career and kind of translate it into this new sort of thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, that's cool, Rob. I'm glad I asked about that. I almost forgot to ask about your musical career. Okay. Well,
I've been getting back into it lately. I got FL Studio. I've been playing some synth and stuff, making some epic 80s synth music, which I enjoy.
That's cool. It reminds me of my older brother. He's recently gotten into analog synth stuff. He's got like a whole room. It's really cool.
Oh yeah, I love that. I don't have analog synth money lying around. I just have my little MIDI controller and a bunch of plugins that I like to mess around with.
Awesome. Yeah, same. So, okay. Hey, Rob, this brings us to the Leftist Inquisition, after which we'll be able to ask what's grinding your gears and maybe field some questions from the chat. So Raiders, stick around. Thanks for being with me. Thank you again for the raid. Ico rules. Love your face. Everyone follow Ico rules. Okay. Now,
love your face, Ico rules.
Love your face. Someone clip that. All right. So, this brings us to the leftist inquisition. Everyone loves this. No one hates it. This is a little questionnaire. It's evolved a little bit. Hopefully, you've seen a recent version of it. So we're going to start. Rob Rousseau with your favorite word. Do you have a favorite word? By the way, you can pass or skip any question.
Okay. Together.
Together. Yeah.
I thought about that ahead of time, so it would sound the most insightful and profound and like inclusive.
You know, I mean, this show is all good, about unity. Yeah.
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 That's what we want.
Okay. Well, hold on. What's your least favorite word?
I don't know. Pass. Okay. I don't have
Pass.
one.
That's fine. We could circle back.
I love all words.
Never forget or forget it. Always forget. Never remember.
Except the really bad ones. Not those.
That's fine. Oh, yeah. That's fine. We could, if you can't say it on screen. Okay. How about, Rob, do you have a favorite drug or vice or guilty pleasure? Feel free to name one of each.
I'm a weed guy.
Yeah. Cheers.
And have been for many years.
Yeah.
And that, pretty much. I've had periods where I've dallied in different, different kind of vices, let's say.
Sure,
But like I said, I'm older now. My 20s were a bit crazy, as I mentioned a couple of times. I'm older now. I like to if it's like a Friday night, I want to unwind. I'll have 2 of those like flavored Bud Lights.
Yeah.
and like maybe a bowl or 2 or 3, and then I'm good for the whole. I'm great. Nice. And I don't really go beyond that. That's
like
my
those
main thing.
Those like seltzer things. I love them.
Well, I like the lime, the Bud Light lime.
Okay, yeah. Hell yeah.
Or what I've been getting lately is the Bud Light strawberry lemonade.
Let's go. Yeah, dude.
it's
I think
very tasty. I have no pretensions. I have no pretensions about being like, I don't like that stuff. I'm like, I'm approaching my late 30s. Let me enjoy my Bud Light strawberry lemonade in my bowl and like just leave me alone. We don't need to have pretensions about this.
That is so much wisdom. Yeah. I'm like a trained bartender, and I'm like, no, dude, whatever the fuck you want to drink is what I'll make for you, and I'll be happy to give it to you. Fuck yeah. All right. Then, anything else you wanted to mention? Yeah, I think we did the drug vice. Did we mention a guilty pleasure? You don't have to. I don't know. I just want to give you this.
I don't really, you know what, Dan? I don't really believe in guilty pleasures. Like I really love cheesy pop music. And like when I was doing music, that's what I became famous doing was cheesy pop music.
Nice.
But like, I really love like 80s pop and stuff like that. And I really don't feel like, I don't think we should have guilty pleasure. I think if you enjoy something, whether it's pop music, whether it's like trashy reality shows, whatever, just enjoy the things you enjoy. You got one life, you got to spend your time doing whatever you want, whether you don't need to feel guilty. You don't need to feel bad. Whatever you want to listen to, whatever music you want to listen to, whatever TV show you want to watch, it doesn't matter. Just enjoy it. Or when it comes to movies and stuff like that, like you can say, like, talk about being anti-war, anti-imperialist, you realize like a lot of American movies, especially in like the genre that I really love, action movies, and a lot of it's very like serious, like pro-American, pro-imperialist propaganda. And you can still enjoy that. I guess that would be the closest thing that I would say to like as a guilty pleasure is enjoying shit like 24 or things like that.
Yeah.
But my position on this stuff is that you can still enjoy that stuff guilt-free, but you do kind of have to think critically about it and understand why it's bad and why it's harmful. You can still find something entertaining. Like 24 is a good example, which is incredibly harmful. It's like basically like fascist propaganda, 24. But it's just enjoyable. It's well made. It's well written. It's got a good hook. It's a good show. It's fun. It's entertaining. But so you don't need to feel guilty about watching 24 or any shit like that, Schwarzenegger movies or fucking whatever you want to talk about. But you should spend some time thinking critically about it and understanding why it's bad and why it can be possibly harmful. So don't feel guilty, but do think critically about it. That's what I would say.
Oh my gosh, thank gosh. Die Hard is uncanceled, everyone.
Oh,
man, I love it.
Like think about it. I've been talking about this lately. Like think about how many 80s movies are about like a cop who just wants to be able to beat the shit out of bad guys, and the fucking internal affairs guys are always on his case. and they're always kind of up his ass about using brutality against suspects, doing whatever he wants, just shooting people, blowing them away in a crowded plaza, and they're just like, can't believe they're getting on his case again. The commissioner's really up his ass. It's like, that's kind of messed up when you think about it. That's kind of telling us some pretty harmful things, but we can still enjoy it. But just maybe think about the kind of stuff that's trying to do to your brain before you enjoy it.
I would also say Paw Patrol is still canceled. You can't do that to kids. I mean, that's just
don't try to avoid it. And I have a kid. I have a young kid who's 5 who I try to avoid it. I try to avoid it as much as possible. Sometimes it's not avoidable, but that's the thing, because they can't really think. Yeah, they can't really think critically as much. So you have to tell them. You have to be like, Chase on Paw Patrol, he's just trying to protect private property. Like, he's not.
Get him young.
That's his whole role. You have to understand this. You have to understand that if working people are organizing and putting together a strike or a protest, you think Chase is going to be on the side of the working people? No, he's going to be on the side of the bosses. You have to understand this.
Come on,
watch
kid.
Paw Patrol, but you have to think about this. Come on,
kid. You got to understand power.
Who has the power in this relationship? Come on, don't just stand Chase from Paw Patrol without thinking about it critically, please.
I don't know the names of the characters. This is funny.
Oh, I know. I've watched a lot of Paw Patrol, man. You have no idea.
All right. Yeah, they're kids, dude. All right. So, all right. Next question is about a sound or a noise. Is there one, Rob, that you love?
I don't know. I guess going back to what we were talking about, the synth sound from the Van Halen song "Jump." Would be this sound. Yeah. Classic.
Did you hear the one intro that they did that was like out of time a little bit? Like the intro, I don't know, like they squeezed it or it was too long or something. And it was like just out of key and it was like pre-recorded. And so when they all came in, it was like, there was just in a wonky, like half step away key. And it was so terrible.
I've never heard that though. Was it from the 80s or was this like
it was
recent
more
thing?
Recent? Yeah. Past 5 years or so. I have no idea. But yeah, that's a good synth sound. Like, that sound from you don't even need to hear all you need to hear is the bop and then the rest. Immediately. You don't need to hear that. You know the song already.
And if I can say another, this is probably cheating, but if I can say another synth sound, because I've not been listening to that lately, but one song that I've been listening to nonstop, this has always been one of my favorite songs, but like the last 2 or 3 weeks, with music, I become very obsessive and I only listen to like a handful of songs for like weeks at a time sometimes. And then maybe I'll move on. But the song Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes, the synth in that song is like maybe the best synth sound that's ever been like recorded. And one of my favorite songs, incredible pop song. And so that's, if I could, it's kind of cheating to do two answers, but I would say that as well.
I'm only mad about the cheese question. I just make it personal about where you're from. Okay. You can feel free to go on. How about sounds or noises, or sound or noise that you hate or intensely dislike? If you get hung up on the word hate, I don't want to skip the question.
I'm still seeing love in the bottom part.
I'm going to fire the graphics guy.
Go.
You're fired. I'm hired again.
You don't have to put up with that, man. Come on.
No, I don't.
If you're going to work for iDanSimpson, you're going to have to be on the ball, because we're talking. This is the big leagues here. A sound that I hate. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, Dan.
Yeah, stupid. It's a stupid question. It really is.
I don't know.
I just put
there's lots of sounds. I don't know. Whatever.
Right. Okay. I hate that sound. Right. Okay. How about then? Yeah, it's fucking past, dude. All right. Now we're to the cheese question. And if you were raised in Wisconsin, you get 2 answers. Or if you spent a good deal of time in France, you get 3 answers. Otherwise, everyone gets 1 answer here.
Well, I have French ancestry, and I live in Quebec, which is predominantly French. So I don't know if that counts as me for.
It feels like it counts. How about this? If you have 3 answers, yeah, it counts.
I don't have a lot of pretensions about food either. The same thing with my guilty pleasures, right? It's not like I'm pretentious about this. I'll like a nice cheese. I'll like a nice brie sometimes. You get some brie, a little like a cracker or baguette, and one of those like Italian meats, like one of those special fancy salamis or prosciutto. Get some prosciutto on there. That's good. I also just like a big solid brick American cheese as well. I enjoy that. Nothing wrong with it. On a burger, I don't want to put a brie or a chev on a burger. I want a nice big square slice American cheese. So
yeah,
I think you got to have diversity when it comes to this kind of stuff.
All right, I love it. Then Rob, this is bringing us to the reincarnation question, which is if you were reincarnated. Where's the syllable I'm supposed to emphasize? If you were reincarnated as some other plant or a non-animal, a non-human animal, sorry, what would you choose?
I'm going to go with a capybara.
Oh, they're so cute.
Have you seen those videos of all the capybaras? They're hanging out with all their capybara bros in the little steamy bath with the citrus fruits floating around. They look very peaceful, very content, noble and wise. The noble capybara. I think that would be my answer.
All right, let's just let everyone know. I don't have the video here, but this will do.
Yeah, this is me.
This is
me and who? Me and who?
Oh my gosh, look at them. There's so many. They're just straight chill. They're pretty chill.
Yeah, exactly. Like that guy. We human beings, we've created this whole fake economy system. We all have to work our whole fucking lives. We can't just go and eat. We have got to go and work at some stupid job and get money to go to the store. And, it's all the things we want to do. We don't have time for it. Look at this guy's got it figured out. This guy's just relaxing. He looks so at peace. He doesn't have to worry about his job. It's not like Sunday and he's thinking like, oh God, it's work tomorrow. I gotta get this presentation. Some fucking client's gonna be mad at me about some inane bullshit that I have to think about, some spreadsheet. He's not thinking about any of that stuff. He's perfectly at peace. Feels great. That's what I want to be. I think that's what we should all strive for.
It's sort of cute in a way, undeniably cute.
Yeah.
I think that definitely helps, to get people to wait on you hand and foot and give you little strawberries and float them in a hot bath for you. Dear gosh.
I'd love to give him a little ear scratchy as well. I mean, I'm sure he would appreciate that. A little ear scratchy. He'd probably be like, thank you. But he wouldn't move, He would just be like, of course you're giving me an ear scratch. Yes. Because that's what you're here for. That's I feel like the attitude that we should all be having about this.
Oh my gosh. All right, Rob. I love the capybara. Next.
The noble capybara.
The chill. So what would God say if you went to heaven and number one, heaven's, it exists and God exists. What would you like them to say?
And that's so profound, Dan. I don't know. I mean, I would like to believe that I've had some kind of positive impact on people's lives, especially when it comes to my son and my kids. I would like to believe that I've had some kind of positive impact on their life and making sure that they're happy and feel supported. If I can just accomplish that, I would feel pretty satisfied with that. If even just one person, I was talking about it on the other day on the stream about how you can kind of point to those moments with certain teachers that maybe started you on this path that maybe you wouldn't have seen otherwise. I was talking about my history teacher in 12th grade who kind of started getting me on the idea of the fact that America was not the good guy of the world and that America is kind of messed up. And when you look at what their values and priorities are, which kind of started me going starting asking these kind of questions. So I think sometimes, if I could have that kind of impact on even one person, if I could start asking some critical questions about the way things work, I would feel pretty satisfied with that. If I could have any minor kind of impact on anyone's sort of development or their education or anything like that, I'd be perfectly satisfied with that.
It's lovely, Rob. And then, how about an influential leftist? They can be dead or alive. Someone that you would like to meet.
Well, I've already said Parenti. You know what? I'm going to say Lenin.
Hey, yeah.
I'd love to hang out with Lenin, and Lenin would be great now. If Lenin was alive today, would be a great poster. I think he'd be great on all this stuff. I think that's the funniest thing about when you start to read, read State and Revolution or read the things that Lenin wrote. He's a funny guy. He's a funny dude.
Okay.
And I think we've got because of part of propaganda and part of just for other reasons. I think we've been led to believe that a lot of these influential communist figures are these tyrannical madmen or authoritarians or terrible people. And it's kind of when you read the stuff that they wrote, it kind of helps to undermine that message. And we realize that this is a real person. They've got funny friends that they fuck around with, and petty beefs that Lenin's always going on about all the people that bug him. And I think a lot of the stuff when you read Lenin, it's so relevant to a lot of stuff that's happening right now, and it's still so it sounds modern even in the way it's written. It's so it can really help you sort of understand the way a lot about the way things work currently, even though it was written 100 years ago now. So that's what I would say. I would say bring back Lenin, hang out with him. It would be fun.
All right, so let's say you brought back Lenin and cleaned him up. I don't know, took a shower. Let's say you had an imaginary conversation. What would how would that go? You can imagine that going any way you like. Got some suggestions there in the Google Doc. Yeah, feel free to take that any direction you like. You can ask them an imaginary question. What would they say?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what he would say. I think, like I was saying before, I think this has been a disillusioning time the last year and a half. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of hope and a lot of promise that maybe we could really start to have a serious impact in the way that things happen in America and elsewhere. I was really thinking this could start something really important that could carry us through the next decade. As you know, we're facing these very serious crises, the climate crisis. Our economic system is constantly in free fall and going through these different crises and recoveries. So it'd be interesting to speak to someone who successfully organized a revolution and successfully managed to create this whole new experiment in the way that a country can work and the way this stuff works. I would be interested in his perspective on just what we're supposed to do now, because it's, like I said, it's disillusioning. It's been disillusioning to have a lot of the things that we were really hoping for really not work out, and feel a lot less attainable than they maybe felt, even a year or two ago. It's hard to know where we're supposed to go from here. So I think getting his perspective on that would be kind of interesting. I don't know if he'd have all the answers, but I'm sure he would have plenty of interesting insights about our modern world and the way things have gone for the last 100 years and the way things are going in the next couple of decades as well.
All right, Rob. Then, all right, now you get to name. You've already mentioned State and Revolution, maybe a couple more along the way. You can name more, or you can just let us know what your favorite leftist book is. Yeah,
I've already said Black Shirts and Reds, so I would just stick with that because I just really think that Black Shirts and Reds is so pertinent in order to understanding the historical lens. This is one thing, Dan, that I've really been trying to dive into. I said I've kind of I've been a little bit disillusioned. I don't really have the answers. I've really been trying to dive into history lately and learning about the history of colonialism, especially. And you realize that we're still kind of living under the same economic system that's been perpetuating itself for the last several hundred years or several thousand years, depending on how you want to go back. But just basically understanding, the ways that our whole society, in terms of our education system and our media, has been oriented towards anti-communist propaganda through our whole lives. Parenti's that book in particular is a really good way of seeing through that kind of level of propaganda that we're all exposed to, and especially pointing out the ways that it's in fact our economic and imperialist system that is violent and so exploitative, and just taking all these kind of crimes of these colonialist governments and capitalist governments and realizing that we're still the same sort of people are in charge and the same economic system is still in place, I think is really valuable. And just in terms of cutting through this really profound level of anti-communist propaganda that we're all exposed to from the time we're kids, Black Shirts and Reds is a great way to do that.
Hey, good shit. Black Shirts and Reds. Another book to put on top of my list, and I don't have enough time to read any of them. Okay. Yeah.
I've been honestly struggling to, frankly, I need to read way more of this stuff. I've been struggling just to find the time to do it as well. I mean, it's difficult to find the time. Another book I will just mention that I just read last week because I became very obsessed with Vietnam over the last couple of weeks. I've been thinking about Vietnam, the Vietnam War with the United States, and also the history of colonialist exploitation in Vietnam, which led to the Vietnam War. So I read this book, The Sorrow of War, which is by a North Vietnamese author. It's basically an account of the war, like from the North Vietnamese perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's not really a political book. It's kind of apolitical. This guy is like, I think he's kind of disillusioned with politics after the like horror and absolutely disgusting, terrible shit that this guy was forced to participate in and witness over the last 10 years of his life, from like 65 to 75. But it is just a really interesting book, especially when you kind of understand the levels of depravity and war and violence that we often export to these other countries. And we take for granted, I think, what we inflict on these countries. Like Afghanistan is another example, right? We're just talking about Afghanistan this week because this 20-year occupation is possibly coming to an end, probably not. And I think when we're living here in Canada and the United States in the imperial core, our only kind of understanding of these wars is through our own troops. And when we see movies about this kind of stuff, the movies are about from our troops' perspectives, and we really understand the trauma that they went through. But I think it's important for all of us to understand the level of depravity and violence that we inflict on other people and other cultures that have to live with this. Like we don't have these wars happening in our backyards, right? They happen around the world, halfway around the world. And so it's really important to get that kind of perspective and realize the level of violence that people are forced to like live with, and also the way that this level of violence and depravity gets kind of normalized. And when in a place like Vietnam or Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, how for decades these places were just the turmoil and depravity and violence was just ongoing, and you realize that throughout that time there was millions of people in that area just going about their daily lives and trying to eke out an existence. And I think it's hard to understand that. It's hard to wrap your mind around that. And you have to read that kind of perspective in order to truly grasp that.
Sorrow of War. All right, Rob, we have just about 5 minutes to go through a couple more things real quickly.
I'm very long-winded.
No, I'm not. I don't want you to be worried. I'll tell you what, we could take this 5, 10, probably like 10 minutes max, maybe even a couple minutes past the hour. My next guest, I think, will be, my next guest is also a Rob. Y'all are very flexible.
Hey, right. There we go.
There you go. How about streamer tips and tricks for beginners, veterans?
I think the main thing, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. The main thing is that like if it's something that you're interested in getting into, not just streaming, but even like podcasting, writing, anything like that, you just have to kind of start somewhere. You have to stop finding excuses to not do the thing that you want to do and just do it after a certain point. That's the main thing. And also just continuing to do it. Not just being like, okay, I tried this thing that I want to do. I did it 2 or 3 times. It didn't turn into this big, amazing thing that I was hoping for. So I'm just going to like not do it. You have to kind of just continually go back week in, week out and just keep doing it, keep putting in the work to get better at the thing that you're trying to do and also to build an audience. And it was the same thing with me with podcasting, right? It's like I was listening to a lot of podcasts and I always thought to myself, man, it would be really cool to be able to have a podcast and be able to kind of do that kind of stuff. But it's the same kind of thing where it's like, well, wait, how would I even start? Like, look at all these people that are successful doing that. I can never dream of getting up to that point. But eventually, I just got to the point where it's like, well, I'm just going to start doing this thing. And I became very singular focused on like just doing this week in, week out and making sure that I got out a podcast every single week. And lo and behold, like when you take that attitude to it, well, it's like, well, now I've been doing it 2.5 years and I've done hundreds of episodes of podcasts. I've got tons of experience. I've made tons of connections. I put out all kinds of interesting stuff that I think people have gotten something out of. So that's the main thing, whether it's streaming or anything. You have to start doing the thing that you want to do. Stop making excuses about it. And then you just have to keep going back to it. Keep going back and continuing to do the work, put in the work to improve yourself and get better and try and build the thing you're trying to build.
Excellent advice, Rob. Really appreciate. I really have appreciated having you on today. We're not quite.
Do you know what streamer tip that I don't follow myself is I don't look into the camera enough. I'm realizing throughout this interview, I don't look into the camera. I'm looking at you on the screen.
Yeah.
And I do this a lot when I'm streaming to myself too. I don't look into the camera, which I need to get better at myself. So I'm going to try now and focus on looking into the camera as if I'm speaking to you and the audience. This is the one thing I struggle with.
Some people are really comfortable with it and they make it look really good. I think there's a way to get more comfortable with it. I've stuck you like as close to my camera as I possibly can. So
that's a good idea.
I'm sort of hoping I'm fooling people sometimes. Yeah, Rob. So this is great. Good shit right there. So Now, this brings us to the end of my questions for you. What we can do is go to your questions. If you have any questions for me, you can ask. You don't have to. I don't. It doesn't need to be entirely one-sided. And maybe if there are any questions from chat that you're willing to answer, I can read those off to you, and you can pass or take it.
Okay. Well, about you, how did you, Dan, get involved in this whole crazy world of streaming and commentary and this kind of stuff? What was your political journey like? I don't know about this.
Yeah, cool. So I'll try to do this quickly. I don't know, definitely lib throughout my high school and then, college life years, engaging in lots of sort of liberal sort of, even almost left, neoliberal, almost sock dem, probably media type stuff that, I felt like I was on a moving pathway left, but it never really quite delivered me to what I now consider the left, which is, anti-capitalism, anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, etc. I didn't understand those concepts. I didn't understand the difference between the left and a liberal. And it was really pretty much learning the differences between those things, asking myself whether or not capitalism can be reformed or whether it needs to be abolished. Same with the cops, same with the Senate and Electoral College, things like that. A lot of these things, they need to go away. And it was sort of the journey of me being uncomfortable with things like defund the police, that kind of language, and eventually, embracing terms like abolish the police. Like it's sort of that journey. And it's been me being here on Twitch for the past probably 6, 7, 8 months specifically. I started almost a year ago, but I did some music in there for a bit with Twitch Sings. I don't know if you remember Twitch Sings. It was a lot of fun. But I was like, all right, I do want to talk about politics. I have a lot to say. I can't just do, I got to do the thing where I say what I want to say. And I was inspired by a couple other streamers along the way, and I decided to give it a shot. And, I've also been producing Kenzo Shibata's show, Meet the Left, for almost 30 weeks. And that's just been a good opportunity for me to expose myself to a wide variety and diversity of important leftist voices. And that's sort of what I do now. I try to I try to realize that I'm a cis straight white male who's a new leftist, and I gotta realize that I gotta know my place as I join this community. So this channel has been an exploration of that. Recently, I've been inspired by Kenzo Shibata, who I consider to be a mentor. His mentor was Karen Lewis, the I believe CEO actually of the Chicago Teachers Union when Rahm Emanuel shut down 50 schools, and I was a school teacher at that time, a Chicago public school teacher, and so it was my first.
Oh wow!
I striked with the teachers for a week, and that was my first labor struggle. But again,
and talk about political journeys too. Rahm Emanuel was a big Obama guy too, and you realize like how real conservative that group of guys were, and how they kind of like pulled the wool over a lot of people's eyes, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. The journey left has honestly been on this stream. People watched me do it, and I became a Marxist not by reading theory, but by watching videos of people who have. And now I realize, like, okay, it's time for me to stop being a baby leftist and grow up and read more theory. Not that anyone has to. You're not kicked out of the movement if you don't read your Marx. I've never read Marx. I'm reading someone who read Marx, and they're distilling it for me. Hadass Tir is her People's Guide to Capitalism. So it's I'm trying to find what I'm able to read and what I can actually comprehend. I tried reading the Communist Manifesto. I'm like, what the fuck is this? There's a specter haunting Europe. What is going on?
Very nice.
Yeah. So
very nice. I didn't realize you were a teacher. That's cool.
Journey. I'm sorry?
I didn't realize you were a teacher. That's cool.
I did a little music. I was a music teacher. Yeah. I thought I'd be a choral director. And then I ended up teaching general music, and I built the students a silent music lab with 30 brand new silent guitars and keyboards, and I couldn't get anyone interested, and then they cut music from the entire program, and then the school didn't have music. So I'm actually sort of glad to be out of there. It's that's a red flag that I should have been gone a long time ago. But
yeah,
it's sad, obviously, that's the case. Yeah. Let me see if I'm seeing any questions from chat. I'm not seeing any chat. Let me know if you have any questions for Rob. We got about 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna let you go. Any other questions from you, Rob? Yeah, I'm an open book, dude.
I don't think so, man.
Cool. Okay. Well then, Rob, dude, you've been an absolutely wonderful guest. I think we'll let you go. You've, I've invited you here, like I mentioned, in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. In that spirit, you've been truly great. I think we've planted a lot of seeds. Looking forward to getting back to hopefully in a future chat.
Well, thanks for doing this, Dan. I just wanted to say also before,
yes.
but if I can leave you with this,
yes, please.
I do appreciate the work you're doing right now, trying to bring people together like this. Yes. One thing that I've really, really tried to avoid as much as possible is getting involved in like the online petty feuds and infighting and that kind of shit. I really hate it. I think it's really counterproductive. It makes me feel bad to see it going on. I don't like it. So I appreciate the work that you're doing, trying to bring people together and trying to be a more of a positive force. That's kind of how I see what my role could possibly be, is trying to do that, right? Trying to bring people together, trying to be someone that's not going to be divisive. And I hate that shit. So I'm glad that you're doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say. I appreciate that. And honestly, that's why you're a perfect guest. And I really, truly hope we'll be able to bring you back on. Well, Rob, we'll go ahead and let you go. Peace and solidarity, buddy.
Take care, man.
All right, next time.
À la prochaine.
Okay, that's okay. It looks like it's broken, but it's not. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching.